Hello.
Hi.
It was weird saying hello first before you.
I know, you looked so nervous.
Did I do this right? Hey, so I was working on my notes just before recording, of course, because...
Classic.
Yeah, because I just do that.
You have a sickness.
Yeah. And I was listening to some soundtrack. What sort of stuff do you listen to when you are concentrating on things?
Lately, I'm into this Icelandic band from Eurovision because it's got good beats and it's very high energy, but I don't know what they're saying. So
Yeah, that can be good. I was listening to some video game soundtracks.
Oh, that shit's good.
So I finished with Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life.
You kind of came back down.
Yeah, that was my kind of okay, I need to chill, get back ready to centered to talk. But before then, I was listening to Mario Kart, which is like the opposite of that, you know?
Yeah.
Super
it's
fast.
Like I just did some cocaine music.
Yeah, it was Mario Kart 64. I feel like I played that one more than the Super Nintendo one.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo one, I just remember that one had a Coco track that we liked because it looked like your car was pooping the whole time.
Oh yeah, the one that was like driving through the mud.
Yeah. We're very mature.
So yeah, I was listening to some of that, some Super Smash Bros.
Ooh, okay.
Donkey Kong Country.
Oh my, that one had a ripping soundtrack.
That was so cool. I was jamming to that one.
I might have to do that later.
And also just some classic Pokemon.
Yeah.
Both Pokemon red, blue, and yellow version, you know, those. But also Pokemon Stadium. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I got to play Pokemon Stadium again with my nephew recently. Kid loves it. It's
Dope.
great.
That's awesome. All right. You want to get into it?
Yeah, now that you're all psyched.
Yes.
But appropriately calm.
Yes. I brought myself back down to the lovely, fertile earth.
Okay, what are we doing today? I brought up notes as if I have notes. I don't.
Oh, dang. Well, hopefully you come up with some questions as we go.
Yeah.
We're going to be learning today about the Paris Commune.
Okay, I've heard about this literally last week.
Yeah, last week, in last week's episode, we were talking about The State and Revolution by Vladimir Lenin. And one of the things that he spent a ton of time talking about was the Paris Commune as kind of an example of revolution in action and what he thought the next stages should look like.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. Tell me about it.
All right. So I kind of wanted to give us a little bit of historical background before we just jump into the Paris Commune, which happens in 1871.
Okay. Oh, by the way, if you want that analysis, you can go listen to the previous episode. So, yeah.
Yes, episode right before this one, whatever number that is.
47.
Okay. All right. So very, very, very brief historical background here to get us up to speed on French history before this.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know a lot of French history, so lay it on me.
Yeah, that's why I think it's important. A lot of Americans, we really don't. And who knows, maybe listeners elsewhere too also are like, French, I don't know anything about France. So, all right. So let's start back in medieval times and we're going to brush real quick. Okay. Medieval times all the way through early modern times. Just think early asshole kings, just kings.
Okay, yeah. Kings were being kings.
Yeah, absolute monarchs, didn't take any shit from anybody. This is called the Ancien regime. By the way, all my French is going to be shitty, except for a few things I looked up. Even those are probably going to be bad, but whatever.
Okay.
All right, early kings, who cares? They're bad.
Okay, kings
were
shitty.
They eventually get so bad, they eventually get so unequal, they're like lavish feasts and everything while everybody's starving. This is 1793.
Okay.
The French Revolution.
Cool.
All right. They make a bunch of monarchs' heads roll. Liberty, equality, fraternity.
That's the cool painting with the titty out and the flag.
Yeah, maybe. So this is the beginning of the First French Republic.
Okay.
1793. By a couple years later, things are crazy again.
Yeah, didn't they go through a lot of revolutions?
Yeah, they will, yes. And so things kind of devolve into a dictatorship under Napoleon. You've heard of that guy?
Yep.
And they establish the First French Empire.
Jeez, so you kind of went backwards
A little bit, yeah.
from republic to empire. Whoops.
Yeah, and so by 1803, Napoleon is at war with Europe, pretty much.
Okay, great.
He's just trying to expand everywhere, and Europe's like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, no.
He's eventually defeated decisive. It's a couple times that he's like false defeated. He's finally like for real defeated at Waterloo.
I know that one. He goes to the island because that's a common crossword clue, the island of Elba.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll hear that expression, this is so-and-so's Waterloo. Like, they got defeated for good. All right, so that's in 1815. Napoleon's defeated. There's something called the Bourbon Restoration, which sounds cool.
It sounds great.
But is not cool.
Oh, no.
Because it's just referring to the House of Bourbon, probably.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The monarchy returns to France. They have constitutional limits because of like the changes that have happened. You have a couple of like French kings again. Mm-hmm. Then in 1830, you have the July Revolution, which is where the King Charles X, he got too bossy. He was an asshole. For example, he tried to execute people for profaning the Eucharist.
Okay, what does that even mean?
Like, I guess...
You took it wrong from the priest?
Stealing it or like, stomping on it or talking shit about it.
I have a gross joke. We were raised Catholic, so we know a lot about communion. But so like you got two ways to go. You can do like the hands, or you can like make them put it in your mouth. And I feel like the mouth is like older.
That's the old fashioned way. Yeah.
What if someone did a rude gesture in front of their mouth as they were getting communion? They're just like,
execution. They never executed anyone with that, but he tried to. And everyone was like, fuck you. And so they had a revolt. He abdicated. They put a different guy on the throne from a different branch of the family, Louis Philippe.
Was he the Bourbon?
No. So the previous guy was the Bourbon. This guy is the Orleans guy. Anyway, this is called the July Monarchy. It lasts longer than July. It just comes from the revolution.
Okay.
And pretty soon thereafter, he's pretty unpopular too, because he's just like a corrupt asshole. Yeah. There's a minor rebellion called the June Rebellion. This is where Les Mis comes from.
Oh, okay.
A couple years later, 1832. Then in 1848, this guy's still in charge, the Louis Philippe guy, and there's a revolution to overthrow him.
Wait, so Les Mis didn't even work?
No, Les Mis did not work. Like they got crushed easy. Yeah.
That sucks. What a shitty play.
And so they overthrow Louis Philippe in 1848 for being an asshole, and they declare the Second Republic.
Okay. Let's try again.
Yeah. Round two. They elect a guy named Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, which is just...
Okay.
He's the nephew of previous Napoleon.
It seems like you're asking for trouble.
Well, you're right. It's 3 years later that he's facing term limits. He can't run again, and he's soon to be out of power, so he does a little coup against himself.
What?
All it amounts to is he arrests his political opponents, but like he's the guy in charge of the government, but he brings in troops against the government. Does a coup against himself, arrests his opponents, and puts together a new constitution where he can run for office as many times as he wants for 10-year periods. That's not enough. The next year, he declares himself Emperor Napoleon III.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, who saw that coming?
Right? So that's the Second French Empire. Overall, his summary, because he rules for a long time. That's 1851. He's in power till 1870. Overall, like the summary of his time in office or in power is he's a conservative, brash dumbass.
Sounds great.
Yeah. He's kind of stupid. Like plenty of his contemporaries say, I think this guy's very ambitious, but I don't think he's like actually disqualified.
That's hilarious.
So he's just a stupid guy. He's kind of a womanizer.
Okay.
That's just what he does.
All right.
And so that's what gets us up to 1870, which is where we need to be.
Okay, great.
With the Franco-Prussian War.
All right. Yeah, we talked about this briefly last week.
Yeah. This is a dumb imperialist war. Right?
Most wars are.
Yeah. Yep. The backstory here is France basically gets goaded into declaring this war.
Okay.
There's this dude named Leopold who's a candidate for the throne of Spain. Yeah, that sounds strange. Whatever.
Yeah, like we're out of left field here, but okay.
He happens to be the cousin of King Wilhelm I of Prussia, which is like a little chunk of Germany.
Yeah, yeah.
And so France is sitting there and they're like, oh no, we're going to be hemmed in on both sides by these guys. And so we'll be, trapped by enemies. That's not good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was their rival. So they complain about it. They say like, please don't do this. And the Prussians are like, yeah, never mind. That guy doesn't need to be in charge of Spain. But the Prussian foreign minister, a guy named Otto von Bismarck.
Uh-huh.
He's very clever. Whereas Napoleon's very stupid. This guy's very clever. And he starts some rumors and he stirs up some shit.
Okay.
The French send a guy over to say like, hey, I know you recalled this, this candidate, like you're not going to do that anymore. Sure. But please, you have to like promise us that you're never going to do this again, ever.
Ooh, okay.
And the king is just like, no, dude, we're not going to do that. But he's kind of polite about it. But Otto von Bismarck kind of rewords that and releases it to the press.
Ooh.
To say like, the king just told this guy, fuck off,
Oh my God.
And the guy was being kind of an asshole and being like, no, you gotta listen to me. He makes it look more dramatic than it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus the French press mistranslated it all and made it like even worse. Oh, everybody was like, fuck Prussia, they're being jerks to us, blah, blah, blah. And so they declared war.
Okay, real quick. How do you have a candidate for king? Like, that's the point of kings.
I didn't look that up. I don't know. I don't know if they had some sort of elective monarchy or what.
I wonder if it's like somebody died and like
they didn't
there's
have a
two
guy.
Cousins, and like they're both they're born at the same time.
Okay. There was a revolution in Spain in 1868. It overthrew Queen Isabella II, and Leopold was offered the Spanish crown by the new government.
Interesting. Okay. I guess that's how.
Yep. They were just like, come be our king, please.
Weird. What a weird revolution ending. Now that we overthrew this monarch, let's do it again.
Yeah, well, that's, revolutions used to do that instead of being
I guess
against
that's true.
kings. Anyway, France declares war on Prussia.
Yep.
Otto von Bismarck wanted this war because he thought, A, we're going to kick France's ass because we're more powerful than them and Napoleon III is a moron.
Yeah.
All right. B, if he got France to declare war on them, on Prussia, then he could turn his little regional alliance, the North German Confederation, into a Germany-wide alliance because the southern states would be like, hey, don't mess with our friend. And so they would join in and he would be able to unify Germany under Wilhelm and like, that's how it would happen.
What a scheme.
Yeah. And it works. All the southern states of Germany are like, oh, fuck this. Like, let's go. Like, France is being an asshole. And so they join in with the Confederation there. After this war is over, Germany will be a unified country.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of Prussia and a bunch of states.
Okay.
So his master plan totally worked.
Worked out. Okay.
France goes into the war and gets completely dominated. Napoleon III, classic dumb guy move, tries to command his armies in the field and gets his ass captured.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And this is September 2nd, 1870. He's captured at the Battle of Sedan.
They were all in small cars.
They just were driving around, beep, beep.
They had swords hanging out their window, just swiping at people.
Yeah. That was effectively the end of the war, kind of. It should have been. And so news of the emperor's capture reaches Paris the next day.
Okay.
The government's like, oh, fuck. There's...
But I bet some of them were like, oh, thank God, we got rid of that guy.
Yeah, I'm sure. But
it's a bad look.
Right, yeah. And so the acting regent, the Empress Eugenie, flees the city of Paris. And the National Assembly, kind of like, the French Congress, they say, well, fuck, the emperor's captured. We're going to, they declare the Third French Republic, and they start their government called the Government of National Defense.
Okay, wow. If your government calls itself the Government of National Defense, ooh, I'm worried.
It's not a very well done government because they, start talking to the Prussians and say like, okay, what are your demands? And
good defense.
Right. The Prussians are just like, you got to surrender. You got to turn territory over to us or whatever. And they're like, no, we won't do that. We're going to continue fighting the war.
Oh my God.
Which is like a bad idea.
A really bad idea.
Like they just got their asses kicked. Somehow they think they're going to do better this time.
Wow.
And the Prussians are like, I mean, oh, okay.
We'll just beat your ass. That's fine, I guess.
Right. And the French government doesn't do anything like marching toward Prussia or anything like that. So the Prussians are just like, I mean, I guess we'll invade. I guess we'll go take your capital. And that's what they do. They go there, they surround it. The French government does a terrible job of defending the city. They just keep losing. And so Paris is in this terrible they're like under siege,
Yeah, yeah.
You got radicals everywhere.
Hell yeah.
Demonstrating against the government. They're demanding their own kind of self-government of Paris, like a commune or council.
Nice.
Yeah, which at the time didn't have such a radical meaning.
Okay.
In France especially, like city governments are, I don't know if it's in all cases or just in most cases, referred to as communes.
Oh, okay.
So it's just meaning like the local government, because before they were just directly administered by the government, kind of Washington, D.C. style.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
There are radicals everywhere. The most radical group was a group called the Blanquists,
Okay.
which were followers of this guy, Louis Auguste Blanqui.
Okay.
And he's sort of, remember like the illegalists and those type of guys?
Yeah, yeah.
The propaganda of the deed types. Like, that's him. He was all about overthrowing the state, but he didn't really give a damn what happened after. He was just like,
Okay.
I mean, let's
Whatever.
do some insurrection. Yeah. So by this point, Paris was starving. It was January 1871. People are all over the place demonstrating against the government, saying, fuck you guys, end this war. This is ridiculous. We're dying. They're eating rats by that point.
Ugh, yeah.
And so the government finally agrees. They give in. They sign an armistice with the Prussians.
Okay, good.
They elect a national assembly, which is mostly conservative, because this is like from the whole country, not just Paris. Paris was way more radical.
Yeah, I imagine.
And so were, some other cities and stuff. But out in the countryside, it was way conservative. Mm-hmm. And I mean, understandable, right?
Yeah, it's a different situation.
Yeah. They elect a guy named Adolphe Thiers, I think it's Thiers, or maybe how you pronounce it, as their leader.
Okay.
And they decide that they're going to, this is the national government again, they decide they're going to meet in Versailles, which is like outside of Paris. It's like
Yeah, it's really close.
Yeah. Instead of in the city, so that they're further away from all this unrest that's going on.
Oh, that's kind of shitty, but okay.
Yeah, that is totally shitty.
Especially that it's Versailles, like symbol of lavishness.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a bad look.
Yup. So they've given up the war at least. All right. Mm-hmm. But you still have this kind of national government in charge, and the Parisians are still pretty upset about like how things have gone so far. And the government proceeds to do some shitty things.
Yeah, they're just mad at how it's all been mishandled.
Yeah, but they don't stop there. They start suspending some radical newspapers, kind of cracking down on dissent. During the war, there had been a moratorium on debt collection. The national government decides that's time to end. Let's collect those debts once again.
Boo.
And they also try to confiscate a bunch of weapons, these 400 kind of old-style cannons that are in Paris.
Oh, okay.
The city of Paris had paid for this, like with a direct tax. They had been forced to pay for these cannons already. They had them in their possession, and the government was just like, no, fuck you, we're taking that.
What the fuck?
Well, they didn't want these unruly Parisians to have those weapons.
I mean, it's literally what we saw in the reading last week when it's like you do as soon as the battle is over, watch for who starts disarming who. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what's happening.
Yep. And so the people of Paris were not about this.
Yeah.
They started organizing themselves through an organization called the National Guard.
Okay.
And the National Guard is separate from like the regular army.
Yeah, it's like a citizen militia.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because the French government had like the regular army, and they had kind of like an army reserve, like just some people that they had just called up just for this situation, just for the war. But this is separate. This is, like you said, just a militia. And it's pretty large in number. It's like around 300,000 people.
Oh, damn.
Versus like maybe around 140,000 that the French government had in official troops.
Wow.
And they were kind of organized at the neighborhood level. In Paris, these are called the arrondissements.
Okay.
The working class arrondissement had more kind of radical National Guardsmen. Because, it's very like almost decentralized. And they're known for being like unruly, refusing to wear uniforms.
Hell yeah. Just rowdy boys.
Yeah, like they wouldn't take orders without discussing them first.
That's great.
They demanded to like elect their own officers. They were just punks,
Yeah.
They were the National Guards. And it wasn't like all the sections of it, but just the ones from the working class area. Mm-hmm. But these guys were involved in leading protests in Paris, all the unrest that had been going on. They end up electing their own delegates, and by March 15th, 1871, they had created a central committee. So, like, out of their membership, they had voted on these guys, like, these guys are going to be our central committee.
Oh, central committee for the
National Guard.
The National Guard?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is, not like a whole Paris-wide thing
yet.
But it was starting here. Mm-hmm. And the central committee voted to refuse to recognize the authority of like the government appointed guy who was supposed to be in charge in the National Guard. They were like, fuck this guy. The military governor of Paris, they also were like, nah, we're not listening to him either.
Nice.
Yeah. And so shit is coming to a head. And of course, in walks a centrist dumbass.
Oh, God.
Who's going to, keep the peace. He's going to talk to both sides and make sure everything's fine. No violence happens. It's a guy named George Clemenceau.
Okay.
And later on, he'll have a full political career, become prime minister of France, blah, blah, blah. But at the time, he's just like a centrist asshole.
Okay. I'm betting he was a centrist asshole later, too, but we'll see. Maybe he grows.
So he tries to talk to both sides, tries to negotiate something, hey, maybe we should, maybe the government should only steal back like some of these cannons,
Okay.
Classic. But this totally fails. The government thinks this guy's like a crazy radical.
Oh my God.
And the commune thinks this guy's like a government spy moderate sort of guy.
I love it.
So neither
Hated
side.
by all.
Yes, yeah. So neither side trusts him, and he just walks away like he lost.
I tried.
Yeah. Later, he'll say something about the situation in classic centrist fashion. We are caught between two bands of crazy people, those sitting in Versailles and those in Paris.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. Good people on both sides. Anyway, the government sends in the army to retake those cannons.
Okay.
Even though the generals are like, we don't have enough people, this might not work. The government's like, no, do it. Go.
Okay.
It does not go well.
Yeah.
They show up on March 18th, and they quickly end up getting into a confrontation with the National Guard. They end up shooting one of the National Guardsmen, and like people show up and it's like, what the fuck? Why'd you shoot this guy?
Oh, shit.
And meanwhile, the army's just stuck there with the cannons. There's a couple of stories there. Either they didn't like bring the horses straight up to pull the cannons, or just the harnesses that they needed to attach the horses to. Either way,
They were stuck.
yeah, they were just sitting there while this crowd's coming around saying, harassing them for killing this guy and for trying to take their stuff. And so in this, like, some of the soldiers like break away and they go join the people.
Oh, shit.
And their general, a guy named Claude Lecomte, is pissed about this,
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so he orders them to fire into this crowd of civilians.
Oh, my gosh.
He gives the order 3 different times, and 3 different times the soldiers are like, nah, dude, these are civilians.
Yeah.
And they refuse.
Good job, soldiers. I mean, low bar, but
Right?
you have to, it's just a low bar. I don't have anything else to say
No,
besides
but it's,
that.
it's crucial, and I think
Yeah.
that, it's, it's important to be like anti-imperialist, but this commune is able to initially even get off the ground because of, like we were saying about the radical National Guardsmen, and also these troops joining.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it seems like you gotta have won over some military folks for this kind of thing to work, which is,
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck that would happen now, but okay.
I mean, it looks like it's got to be a part of any successful revolution.
I think so, yeah. But right now it's like a pipeline to the other side.
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess if things get bad enough, it can change because, we saw this in the Bolshevik Revolution too.
Mm-hmm.
The army was a hotbed of revolutionary activity,
Interesting, yeah.
So the army's like breaking away and joining the people, and they end up just arresting that General Lecomte and his officers.
Get him out of here.
And they take him to National Guard headquarters. Meanwhile, another military guy, this guy, General Clement Thomas, who was known by the people as just being a real asshole who had crushed previous rebellions before.
Okay, great.
He comes out to figure out what's going on. He's just dressed in civilian clothes. I guess this guy lived in Paris or something and was like, what the fuck's happening? He shows up and people are like, that's that guy, General Clement Thomas. I hate that dude. They arrest him. They beat him up and they just kill him.
Okay, that part sucks, but whatever. Like, it sounds like this guy sucked.
They fill him full of holes. Like they shoot him full of bullets. It's 40 bullets in him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And they take the opportunity to go ahead and shoot the other guy too, who had ordered people to fire into the crowd. They kill him.
While we're here.
The army retreats, they're like, no, we lost. They finally retreat from Paris. People start throwing up barricades all over working class arrondissement. And the army, full retreat. They're going to try to come back later, but they're out.
Yeah.
And so the National Guard mobilizes to take control of the city. This is, again, March 18th.
Okay.
The most radical group, the Blanquists, go take over the gunpowder stores at the Pantheon.
Good call.
Yeah, smart move. Some National Guard battalions start capturing things, the police headquarters, the old National Guard headquarters, the Justice Ministry headquarters, other government buildings, including the main one, the Hotel de Ville.
Hilarious because it was empty.
Yes, yeah.
That's good. You guys want to meet in another city? Well, we're going to take your shit while you're gone.
Yup. Yeah. And so they take over everything. That becomes their headquarters.
Great.
And they hoist the red flag over the building.
Nice. Is it just plain red?
Yes, yeah. They end up using this flag as their national flag versus the old tricolor.
Yeah.
And so this is the beginning of the Paris Commune, March 18th.
Cool. How'd it go?
Well, they start out with some disagreement.
Yeah. Well.
The Blanquists wanted to go to Versailles and take over all of France. Let's go get those losers over there. Let's go declare ourselves the entire government and start doing a revolution, right?
Wow, okay.
But most of the rest of the commune were like, whoa, we barely have Paris. Let's make sure we get control of Paris first and figure that out. So they create some government departments. They call for elections for a commune council.
Okay.
And they also, not only within their group, but outside of their group, they face some conflict between them, like this Central Committee of the National Guard, which is kind of the only government they have so far till those elections happen.
Yeah.
And the mayors of the various neighborhoods, the arrondissement, which those were elected under the national government, and they're way more moderate than.
Yeah.
And so the Central Committee is just like, fuck those guys. We're the legitimate government, not these mayors. Take a hike. You can, you can stay here, but you're no longer the mayor, pretty much. That's what they told me. And so they held elections, March 26th. Cool. I mean, first of all, imagine an election season that short. That would be nice.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
I would love that. They elect a 92-member commune council, one representative for every 20,000 residents.
Okay.
And most people in upper class neighborhoods had either left, like a large portion of the city had already
Went to their country chateaus.
Yeah, but those were only like the super rich. Like you still had some kind of upper class people who were there, but a lot of them abstained from voting.
Ooh.
The national government told them to. They were like, don't do this. This is not a legitimate election. Don't vote.
Oh.
You know. And,
wait. They told them not to vote?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And a lot of them did not vote. So most of the voters were like working class people.
Yeah. That's cool.
And the results, get this, the party makeup here is astounding. I love this. I would love for these to be our political parties.
All right, let's hear them.
So you had 9 of the winners. They were Blanquists. All right, so the radicals. You had 25 who were independent revolutionaries, which that sounds good.
Sounds great.
About 15 were from the First International, so they were dedicated socialists. And then the rest were from a variety of radical groups.
Oh my God. Can you fucking imagine? I feel like I could die happy with those kind of numbers. I could just be like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, we would be like filthy moderates. You know, we would be like, I don't know if I want to go as far as the Blanquists, but yeah.
Oh, that's delicious.
Yeah. One of the best known candidates, that centrists from before Clemenceau, he got 752 votes.
Oh.
Which is barely anything.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what a loser. Downside, gender-wise, women could not vote or hold office.
Oh.
They were still sexist, I mean.
Sounds like it.
All right, they started. What did they do? Let's talk about some things that the commune tried to do. I mean, some of this stuff is pretty cool.
Okay, tell me about it.
So we talked about last week how the commune elected its officers, right? So direct elections that are all recallable, revocable. You can kick them out of office immediately if you want. And they were paid just a regular worker's wage.
Fuck yeah.
And they had no special privileges.
Fuck yeah. So
this is, different. It's not the old bourgeois state. It doesn't, it's not placing itself above the people. Now it's a commune of the people.
I feel like that's such a common sense thing. Like, I feel like you talk to anyone in the States and they're like, no one fucking likes these. I mean, libs do. But,
yeah.
But like a normal person, even like conservatives, they all think that the government is corrupt and all this shit. And you're like, you're right. Yep. But like, your methodology is flawed, but you're right about them being corrupt.
Well, yeah. They get that it's wrong what's happening. They just want to take it in a worse direction.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think that's why Marx and Lenin and Engels were that's what they were trying to say, was saying like the state is above the people, because regular people get that it's fucked up, but it's still imposed upon us,
Yeah. It's just like accepted.
Yeah, it's still something we have to do this, even though most people don't like it. And so that's why it's inherently repressive.
Yeah.
But the commune government had no president, no mayor, no commander-in-chief, no gods, no masters.
Damn, dude.
We are running this all together.
Wow.
They instituted a separation of church and state.
Great.
Which was a big deal.
Yeah.
Those had previously been very intertwined. They appropriated church property. They excluded religion from schools.
Great.
They made it to where priests were no longer like government paid employees.
That's a good call. Jeez.
Yeah. And they also took some priests hostages. They arrested them.
Ooh, okay. Well,
started using them as hostages. We'll get a little bit more into detail with hostages later.
Oh, okay.
But that's, not as.
Not great.
In their defense, the church had been, part of the repressive arm of the government before.
Yeah. It's not like your friendly neighborhood priest.
Right, yeah. That said, they still took him hostage. So,
yeah.
Well, they also abolished the death penalty.
Love that.
They actually gathered up all the guillotines in the city and set them on fire.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Whereas the guillotine had been this kind of symbol of equality and the people rising up and stuff in the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Between that and 1870, it had then just been used for state execution. So it was then seen as like a symbol of, state domination.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
They also destroyed a big monument to Napoleon
Great.
called the Vendôme Column or something like
Okay.
that. They said it was a monument of barbarism, a symbol of brute force and false pride. So, I mean, they were tearing
Delicious.
down statues, you know.
Fuck yeah, I'd love to do that.
They abolished military conscription so
Great.
that the military, such as it was just like kind of like Lenin was talking about, the armed population. Mm-hmm. So on paper, they had a huge military because it was just the male population.
Just everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went back to the no rent situation that they
Great.
had during the siege.
Fuck yeah.
They abolished debt interest.
Fuck yes.
They abolished child labor.
Good.
And also night work in bakeries, which is apparently a big deal in Paris. But, you know, you have to go and,
There's a lot of bakeries.
yeah, you have to work the night shift. They would force you to do that. It also prohibited employers from fining their workers.
Oh,
Which
okay.
sounds real shitty. I mean, you're already
Yeah.
getting robbed by them anyway, and then you have to pay them more.
What the fuck?
So they prohibited that. They also returned a bunch of stuff to people. Like they kind of turned open their pawn shops is a way to think about this. A lot of
Okay.
people had to pawn things during the siege. And so they were like, that was kind of fucked up. Here you go. You know,
Oh, that's so nice.
they also gave employees the right to take over and run a business if the owner had abandoned it
That's great.
with compensation. So it wasn't like just radical
Okay.
see you out in the street. You did have to pay them back for it.
Okay.
So not quite as we would like them to just straight take it, you know.
Even if they're still there.
Well, yeah. Anyway, these are some of the cool things that they pass as laws.
Pretty cool.
They kind of only barely get to implement them because they don't last for very long, you know.
Good start.
Yeah, they start
Good
trying to do
intentions.
these things. They also get a lot of help from the local level, the arrondissements, which start setting up free orphanages. They start handing out school supplies and clothing and food for free. So it's also this like local level of people trying to do shit for themselves.
Well, it sounds so nice. I want to watch a movie about this, or like this would be a great like prestige Netflix series. Somebody get on that.
True. It's also kind of dire because they're still, you know,
Yeah,
under
they're still in
siege,
a war.
basically, yeah.
It wouldn't just be cute the whole time, but
Right.
it could be very dramatic, but have these really cute little moments.
It would be a pretty good Netflix series, like the mini-series things, you know. Mm-hmm. Some other things they did: they banned some pro-government newspapers
Cool.
for being pro-government, and they took out a loan from the Bank of France.
That's a weird move.
Yeah, and this is kind of dumb. Instead of just so they're in Paris, they're sitting on the Bank of France.
Couldn't they just take the fucking money?
Well, the vault had the vault, like the gold reserves, had already been taken away, but you still had like a bunch of gold coins and just paper money, banknotes, still there. And instead of robbing that, which was like 246 million
I would
francs,
just rob it.
just rob it.
They're
right?
gone.
Instead, they were worried about like, oh, but we won't be able to back up a stable currency because we'll have no reserves. So instead, they put a guy in charge of the bank and loaned themselves money from it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, probably a stupid move. Like they probably should have just
Yeah.
taken that over. I mean, they ended up they could have stolen that money. They weren't even around long enough to spend it all. So that could have helped, you know?
Yeah, what the heck?
So that was kind of a not so hot moment.
That's like a I'm so obsessed with following the rules kind of moment where like you're kind of throwing logic out the window.
Yeah, like they don't need to be that formal about it.
They just don't. They're not there.
They're a
It's
revolutionary
fine.
government, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, we mentioned the status of women before, saying they couldn't vote, they couldn't hold office, but they were still doing shit. Even
Okay.
though, you know, sexism was working against them, they were still taking an active role in the
Nice.
commune. When the battles start later on, they're going to be in the fight as well. One
yeah.
famous fighter is a woman named Louise Michel.
Okay.
She was an anarchist. She had a cool nickname, the Red Virgin of Montmartre.
Ooh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That'd be a great cocktail.
And it's a
Except I
virgin
guess it'd be
cocktail.
a virgin cocktail, but which is not my thing, but you know.
You also had Natalie Lamel and Elizabeth Dimitrov,
Okay.
who created the Women's Union for the Defense of Paris and the Care of the Wounded.
Ooh, that sounds great.
Yeah, so obviously they were doing that, right? They were helping with the war effort, but they were also like more broadly speaking, advocating a kind of a twin struggle against patriarchy and global capitalism.
Okay.
So they, realized you had to do both.
Yeah, yeah.
They were fighting for gender and wage equality, the right for women to divorce.
Nice. That's a huge one.
Yeah, yeah. The right to secular education, the right to professional education for girls, the end of distinction between married women and concubines.
Oh, interesting.
And between legitimate and illegitimate children.
Also huge.
Yeah. Why is that particular? I get that, it's, I don't know, inheritance. Is that the main thing?
It's inheritance. Okay. But it's also, you could be, socially shunned, or I imagine even back then probably not be able to get a job in certain fields, stuff like that. I'm sure.
If people, okay. Yeah. If they're like, oh, but you have illegitimate children. Okay.
Yeah. But I just want to make a quick point. When we talk about the reasons why divorce and illegitimacy and stuff like that is important, you can really see how property takes a huge role in these, so-called just social relations of marriage. It is all about property, especially back then.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. That combined with the right to divorce and safety issues there's also that central issue of property. What else? Oh, they also wanted to abolish sex work.
Okay.
Which was at the time, and you remember we talked about this, I think, with Emma Goldman, because at the time it was seen, and maybe with Karl Marx too, because at the time it was seen as exploitative, capitalism. It was just capitalism again, but personalized, and people, they were seen as being forced into it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one. Because I get that argument in a way, but it's we're all selling our bodies in some way, so whatever.
Yeah, I guess maybe
unless you got rid of all work.
Yeah,
I don't think you should get rid
in
of
modern
sex work.
times we would just be let's just abolish work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was what the women's movement was doing in the Paris Commune.
Okay.
But let's get to the dark chapter.
Oh no!
Because all this fun time, all of it has to come to an end.
Damn it.
Because you have, this is where we turn from the rebels to the empire. We turn back to the dark side and see what...
The soundtrack changes.
Screen
we get
wipe.
some moody lighting.
Yeah.
Screen wipe.
Vader in it, the emperor plotting. Oh. And the French government is still in Versailles, and they're biding their time to build up their forces to attack.
Okay.
To do so, they're going to need to get the help of their previous enemies, the Prussians.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
How, you might not know this, how did the rest of France respond to this outside the government? What were those other country areas? Were they what the fuck is up with Paris?
So in other cities,
because I would get on my little horsey and go up there. Can I join?
In other cities, some of them did send some people to join and try to do their own thing too, Marseille and Lyon. They tried to do this. Maybe some other cities too, but they were immediately crushed. They did not succeed at all in getting up off the ground. The countryside did send tons of volunteers to the army, to the government.
No,
because the countryside was rural. They were pro-government. They did not like these radicals in Paris.
Oh man!
But the cities were, more radical. And it's possible, and it's possible that this is just a leadership in the country. Maybe more peasants would have been able to, join in. More just small farmers and stuff would have supported the commune, but they didn't really have a means of carrying out that. Yeah,
it's not like they had a robust transportation system. They could just go send them shit and stuff. Right.
And even in the surrounding areas of Paris, the Prussian army still had a perimeter around half the city.
Yeah.
And the government forces were pretty nearby. It was really hard for surrounding countryside to join in, even if they wanted to. And I'm probably sure that the regular people would have had more sympathy for this than maybe the leadership of the country. So I don't want to tar them as the classic
dumb
trope
yokels.
of, yeah. I don't want to.
yeah.
because as Mal said, they have revolutionary potential.
Right.
Back to the bad guys. So, like we said, the Prussians have the eastern half of Paris surrounded. The Commune's forces by this point have taken up defensive positions around the western half of Paris. All right? So it's like they're circling the city, Prussians on this side, the Commune on this side.
Uh-huh.
And the government is on the western, like on the western half, but further away in Versailles.
Okay.
And so the French, they go to Otto von Bismarck, the Prussians, and they say, we need your help. Paris, man. Paris is going crazy. And the Prussians were not fans, of course, of what was happening in Paris.
I'm sure.
They were like, this looks pretty scary.
We don't want that idea taking hold in our new unified republic.
So what did they do? They helped the French government. They let them expand their regular army past the limits that had been set in the armistice. The armistice said, you can't have a big army because we don't want to fight you again.
Yeah.
Instead, they said, that's like fine. Go ahead and make you an army. You need it. They also allowed around 400,000 French prisoners of war from the Franco-Prussian War. They released them to go back to France so that they could help crush the Commune.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. They really did not want this lasting any longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, what can we take from this? These capitalist assholes, they will, posture and they'll boast and they'll saber rattle about they're the biggest, baddest country, it's America first or it's all for the fatherland or whatever. But when it comes down to, the lethal threat of the people rising up against them, dethroning them, they're going to figure out how to work together against us pretty quick.
Oh, that's so nasty.
Yeah. Ugh. So, erstwhile enemies joining back together to help each other out here.
Ugh, that's so gross.
And now with the government forces at full strength, we'll go ahead and get into some boring military history because they're getting ready to do some stuff.
Okay. I mean, I already know who wins, so.
Yeah, we'll do the short version. So the Commune, they try to launch an offensive from Paris. They're going to go to Versailles and attack it. They launch the attack April 2nd, 1871. They get defeated. The commander of the government of the army, this asshole named Georges Ernest Boulanger, orders the execution of all communard prisoners captured with weapons.
Fuck, that's like everybody.
Yeah. So anybody who they capture that has weapons on them, kill them.
Oh my gosh.
And so we'll use this term to refer to the people of the commune there, the communards. I don't know. That's what's in the reading, so. The communards respond by passing the Decree on Hostages. This is on April 5th. We mentioned the hostages before. Here's what they did.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Anyone accused of complicity with the government could be arrested, imprisoned, and become hostages of the commune. In response to the government executions of communards, the decree said that they would execute 3 times as many hostages.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, pretty gruesome stuff.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I mean, they have their backs against the fucking wall, so.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have to start executing people at the beginning. The army didn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But they see them as traitors and, typically governments, when they deal with that, they just kill them.
Yeah.
The commune also formed the Committee of Public Safety.
Okay.
Which is kind of a repressive force, basically. And as Lenin said, it's kind of a special repressive force, but directed at the bourgeoisie. This is named after the infamous Committee of Public Safety during the French Revolution, during their reign of terror.
Oh, yeah.
This is what Robespierre was using to execute lots of people.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, it was doing the same thing for counter-revolutionaries, for arresting them, and holding them hostage.
Okay. So was this just like the rich people that were still in town, basically?
Yeah. Or the like priests and stuff. Which a lot of them got arrested.
So so remaining hostages were in danger of being executed, and then they're going to go get some more hostages.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, great. When I say great, I mean bad.
Yeah. Anyway, the National Guard of the Commune was not doing that well by this point. They'd suffered a couple of defeats in their ventures outside the city walls. They ended up with maybe around 25,000 to 50,000 actual troops instead of, they
Okay.
were supposed to have like 200,000, but that was just the male population. So this is who showed up,
Yeah.
Few of them knew how to use like their heavier weapons, like the cannons and stuff. They just weren't well trained.
Yeah.
They had very few capable commanders. There's this one guy they mention in here as being famous in the Paris Commune, Jarosław Dąbrowski.
Okay.
He was a Polish guy, but he was living in Paris, and he was one of their. He had a military background, so
Okay.
they just didn't have a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the issue with people's armies is that, like, they're not well trained.
Yeah,
So, yeah, you probably, especially back then, like, guns were much harder to operate, I imagine.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because do they still have like muskets and shit?
So I think we still have this problem, though. So think about it. They have the problem of handling, like, it's harder for them to handle just the normal weapons, right? Mm-hmm. But their opponent does not have significantly more advanced weapons than they do.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas it's pretty easy to operate like the small arms, but we don't know shit about operating like a
Missiles.
right,
and-
like a drone. We don't have those, first of all, or a tank or whatever. Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
so we have our own problems, I guess. By May 20th, government forces, they had regrouped. They had surrounded the western half of Paris. The commune had been driven back behind the city's walls.
Boo.
And soon enough, the army enters the city. Some traitorous chump informed the army that the National Guard had left a section of the city wall undefended.
Rude. That guy should get executed. I'm for
Here we
that.
go. We're back to Snowpiercer, Christine.
Yeah, right?
Execute your
most radical.
prisoners. Yeah.
Guys, execute your prisoners. Number one rule.
This begins the Semaine Sanglante, the Bloody Week. It's probably not at all how you say that. I don't know, but
That's okay.
I just try to say things French sounding. The Bloody
Yeah,
Week.
just channel your inner Frasier.
And this, as the name implies, is bloody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Street fighting, violent, brutal stuff. The commune is outnumbered 5-1.
Oh, fuck.
They're pleading with people to come out and fight in quite dramatic fashion. These declarations. I've got a couple of them here. I'll read.
Oh, yeah.
In the name of this glorious France, mother of all the popular revolutions, permanent home of the ideas of justice and solidarity, which should be and will be the laws of the world, march at the enemy, and may your revolutionary energy show him that someone can sell Paris, but no one can give it up or conquer it. The commune
Damn.
counts on you. Count on the commune.
Well, that's good.
It's kind of, yeah.
I don't know if I would die for it, but it's good.
What does this other one say? To arms, that Paris be bristling with barricades, and that, behind these improvised ramparts, it will hurl again its cry of war, its cry of pride, its cry of defiance, but its cry of victory, because Paris, with its barricades, is undefeatable. That revolutionary Paris, that Paris of great days, does its duty. The Commune and the Committee of Public Safety will do theirs.
This is giving me some red, the blood of angry men kind of vibes.
Yes, totally.
I hope you all enjoyed that.
Well, you know what? It's not for no reason. Like we mentioned earlier, all those revolutions, like Paris has had experience with revolutions before. So they were, doing what they knew how to do.
Yeah, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know about current French politics, but I do love how when they get mad, they just set shit on fire.
Yeah.
And great job.
Yeah, yeah. And it's in some ways, it's, again, we're not experts, I guess, but it's
Yeah, they have their problems.
right. But that is impressive how they will just straight up go out there and fight cops,
Yeah, it's hilarious. Not like hilarious, but it's cool.
Yeah. The government, the army, meanwhile, keeps marching through its street-to-street fighting. They keep executing soldiers that they capture, thousands of them. They're even executing anybody who's found with gunpowder on their hands instead of just
What?
weapons, because people started throwing down their weapons before surrendering.
Oh, that sucks.
But then they start checking their hands to see if they fired a weapon.
That's so shitty. What if you're like, oh, it's just charcoal I was drawing?
Too bad. They don't believe you. Blam.
Oh, no.
Meanwhile, by May 23rd, the National Guard had started setting government buildings on fire to deny them to the advancing army.
That's a good call. Like I said, I love a fire.
Well, they include the Tuileries Palace, part of the Louvre,
Ooh, okay.
and eventually their own headquarters, the Hotel de Ville.
Damn. You know, I bet there's a lot of people who are like, I can't believe they would deface like historical buildings, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I bet people are pissed about that.
Sure, yeah, and that these, and these fires were used to kind of tar the commune as just these insurrectionists, just these people out for destruction, without any context to their getting crushed.
Yeah, for sure. They're getting executed and shit.
Yeah. So tons of people by this point were deserting, changing into civilian clothes, shaving their beards off, and trying to run away. Only around 10 to 15,000 communards remained. The army's continuing to close in, executing anybody, like we said. So that's still happening. The communards respond in desperation. They start executing more of their hostages.
Oof.
By the end of it, they had executed around, it may end up being higher, but 63 is about what they end up at. It could be higher than that.
I mean, how many of them got killed? Probably more than 63.
Yeah, we'll talk about the numbers here in a bit. By May 28th, the army had captured the last remaining communards. They had freed the 170 remaining hostages, and the commune was over. It had been bloodily crushed.
Damn.
Yep. So they do not last too long.
Yeah.
About 2 months. March 18th to May 28th.
How many days is that?
72 days.
Damn.
Yeah. It's actually a milestone that is remembered later when the Bolsheviks do their revolution. Lenin goes outside and dances in the snow. The day that the Bolshevik government lasts longer than the Paris Commune did.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. But it gets bloodily defeated. The official army numbers during the Bloody Week, which this is probably at the very low end of anything.
Yeah, probably.
Was 43,000 prisoners, 22,000 they claimed that they released before trial. 13,000 out of 15,000 who went to trial were found guilty. Many of those imprisoned or deported or sentenced to forced labor. They claimed that only 95 of them were sentenced to death.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I imagine that those numbers are actually higher. But that's our bias. We don't like them, so.
That's true. Okay, but like that's just for people they captured. They also like straight up killed people in the streets though, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Do we have numbers for those guys?
We have like overall casualty numbers. After the war, thousands of people who took part in the commune went into exile. Hundreds were condemned to death, although they did execute only 25 of those. And there's a general amnesty in 1880 saying, you can come back from exile,
Yeah.
Army casualties on their end. So how many army guys died? 877 killed. Yeah, the national government. 877 killed, 6,454 wounded, and 183 missing.
Damn.
We only have estimates on the communard side. Anywhere from the low end of like 10,000.
That's a lot.
To 20,000 killed. Lenin would cycle between 20 and 30,000. 20 I think 30 was more like Lenin making a case. 20,000 is more, you have more historians on board for that. A lot of them also want to lean toward the 10,000 number too. So I'm not sure. It's a ton of people either way.
So you know how people talk about like when they die, what they want to ask God? I feel like ours is going to be like, how many people really died?
We just have a
like
list
all
of
these
events.
various things.
Yeah. How many people died here? How many people died here? Yeah, because we run up against that problem so many times.
So many times. But I always just take the low end and I'm like, oh, that's still too many.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. So that's kind of the aftermath in terms of what officially happens. I mean, the national government Paris retakes control, and the Third Republic lasts until World War II.
Damn.
All right, so having covered the timeline, let's talk a little bit about what people thought about the Paris Commune, because this is an event in history, the reactions to which are themselves history. So
Yeah. I gotta know. What did America think? I bet they didn't like it.
good question. So yeah, I think you're right there. They did not appreciate what was going on. The American ambassador in Paris during the Commune, a guy named Elihu Washburn,
Okay.
wrote in his personal diary.
Just a big page that just said fuck all the way across.
Well, he described the communards as brigands, assassins, and scoundrels.
Scoundrels.
He said, I have no time now to express my detestation. They threaten to destroy Paris and bury everybody in its ruins before they will surrender.
Wow.
Dramatic.
Okay. Very dramatic.
I don't know in the newspapers in America what that would have been like. It's in the beginning, it's in the end of Reconstruction, the very earliest days of the Gilded Age. At that time, it's the Industrial Revolution still. It's kind of it's like I said, the beginning of the Gilded Age. It's the beginning of robber barons and stuff.
Yeah, full on like buck wild capitalism.
Yeah. So while there's like labor unrest starting to happen, I don't think in the press there would have been too much sympathy for this at all.
Oh, probably not.
So the ruling elite were like losing their minds, I'm sure, about this. So yeah, the Americans did not like it.
I mean, understandable. Did we have any like anarchists around at the time that were into it?
You did, yeah. So anarchists saw the Commune as like,
The shit.
yeah, it's sort of an example of what they'd like to do to society-wise, and especially like their plans for what they were, because they didn't get much of it off the ground, but
Yeah.
it was kind of their intentions and stuff. So it's a communal federation of delegates. It's subject to recall. It had lots of anarchist participation in the actual workings of it. We mentioned Louise Michel, the anarchist activist. And so, yeah, they kind of saw it as a good thing. Anarchist Mikhail Bakunin, like one of their leading guys, strong supporter of the Commune. He thought it was above all a rebellion against the state. He commended them for rejecting not only the state, but also a revolutionary dictatorship. They, because they were running everything really horizontally, kind of disorganized in a way, but like no powerful people.
Yeah, I think that's what I really liked about it, is that it was such a local level thing.
Yeah. And anarchists looked to that and said, this is good. And it's interesting because in anarchist circles, typically you don't have a lot of like sympathy for, Marxist-Leninism or anything, or Lenin in particular. And they'll say, the dictatorship of the proletariat, that's like bad.
That's still power, blah, blah, blah.
Right. But, if you present them with the State and Revolution, how it says, the dictatorship of the proletariat looks like the Paris Commune, they're going to be like, oh, if that's what you mean, that's like fine.
I think it's a language issue.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of what anarchists thought about it. Communists also see it as an example of, the revolution in action, what society could look like after capitalism is abolished and the state is abolished.
Fuck yeah.
We talked about, Marx and Engels and Lenin kind of last time what they thought of the Paris Commune.
Yeah.
They were total fanboys of it, by the way. Like, they had their critiques, but overall, if they were teenagers back then, they would have had like posters of the Paris Commune all over their
for
bedroom
sure.
walls and everything.
Like, who's your favorite communard?
Yes, yeah. Like I said, Lenin celebrated the day that they lasted longer than the Paris Commune.
Oh.
They made March 18th a national holiday in the Soviet Union in honor of it. It was the 50th anniversary of the Commune in 1921 in the Soviet Union, that they had posters up everywhere saying the martyrs of the Paris Commune were resurrected under the red flag of the Soviets.
Oh, wow.
So they were like, kind of obsessed with it.
A little bit. I like it though.
Yeah, it's cool. We mentioned, like we said in our last episode, the focus on the Paris Commune is an example of the dictatorship of the proletariat, the workers' semi-state or commune. Marx described it as the working class discovering the future form of government or of society, right?
Yeah.
just kind of like in the course of revolution, they figured out, let's do it this way. It's very democratic. We're in charge of our own destiny. It's, like I said, recallable and all that, so it's accountable. The communists really kind of saw that as the motto of what to do next.
But yeah, it's very horizontal. It's very local based. It's just like kind of accessible. The People's Army thing is cool. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of showing my cards here and getting to a rating before we've gotten to the rating part. But yeah, I mean, I can see why. I think it's interesting that both anarchists and communists like it. Like, we actually agree on more things than we disagree, as much as they like to shit on each other.
Yeah, for sure. And we can, I mean, I'm sure there will be fights after a revolution, but like both anarchists and Marxists of really all stripes, besides maybe the reformists, want to get rid of the capitalist state,
Yeah.
All revolutionary Marxists anyway want to get rid of the capitalist state. We can work together on that. That's a monumental task enough.
Yeah, right.
We don't need to worry about our differences
figure it
until
out
after
later.
we somehow figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we were saying with the parties earlier, and we frequently just like dream about this as, man, wouldn't it be great to be like, I don't know if I'm going to vote for the anarchist guy or the Marxist guy,
That'd be
the
insane.
Marxist-Leninist guy or the Maoist. I'm still deciding. But yeah, Marx was also giving a pretty high rating to this. He said, "Working men's Paris with its commune will be forever celebrated as the glorious harbinger of a new society. Its martyrs are enshrined in the great heart of the working class. Its exterminators history has already nailed to that eternal pillory from which all of the prayers of their priests will not avail to redeem them."
Damn. Wow.
Classic dramatic Marx there.
Very dramatic. Yeah, I love the priest bit. Jeez.
But he had a criticism of the commune.
Okay.
And he said that they should have been harsher toward reactionaries.
Yeah.
He said they kind of went easy on them. They should have done conscription, he said, instead of just volunteering the army. He said they didn't end up with enough people, so they should have drafted people.
I don't know.
And he said they should have centralized decision-making more. In Lenin's reading of him before, we saw that argument between centralism and federalism. And Marx was all about like central decision-making.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't really care about that. Like, especially because it's a city. It's like, it's just a city, y'all. Like, I don't know how centralized we gotta be.
I think he has a point there, though, that they were kind of disorganized.
Okay.
It's that trade-off between that, like, let the neighborhoods do what they want versus organize it centrally, is they ended up a little uncoordinated sometimes.
I guess that's true.
I don't know. I guess you have to find some sort of a balance between that.
Yeah.
I don't know about conscription.
Yeah, I'm not into that.
I feel like it's fine to do in that sort of an emergency when you're fighting for your survival. It's not like what you want to do, but I would understand, and maybe I wouldn't even abdicate it, but I would be like, well, I guess we had to do it if it happened.
Yeah.
That was Marx's critique. Lenin said kind of the same thing. Genuine workers' revolution, example of the dictatorship of the proletariat. His critiques, number one, was that they stopped halfway. He said, instead of setting about expropriating the expropriators, it allowed robbing the capitalists, basically.
Yeah.
It allowed itself to be led astray by dreams of establishing a higher justice in the country, united by a common national task. So, like, not taking over the banks.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, like, he's just saying, guys, come on and do the thing. Like, take power,
So would he be on, like, we talked about how the commune was kind of split between, like, let's take over France and let's chill here. He'd be like, let's go take over France, right?
Yes, yeah, for sure. That's his other critique as well, is excessive magnanimity on the part of the proletariat. Instead of destroying its enemies, it sought to exert moral influence on them. He said they were too nice. They didn't realize how urgent military action was. They should have attacked Versailles, taken over the country, and then figured things out, instead of trying to figure things out in Paris and letting the national government regroup.
I mean, that might be true because that not doing that gave them time to go see Otto van Buttmark and fuck things up. Which is his new name.
Yeah, I agree I don't know. So I guess I don't know, honestly, if they would have been successful.
But their army was bigger at that point, right?
Yeah, but they also didn't know how to use those weapons and stuff. Like, it might have been
Training
hard.
montage.
Yeah, it might have been hard, but they had a better chance of doing that than they did once those prisoners of war returned and the army was at full strength.
Yeah, yeah.
And plus, I mean, if they take the government, the seat of government and everything, they're now the official thing. Like, just by virtue of that, they might have greater pull on those other cities whose communes failed, is saying.
Exactly. They could rule, basically.
Right. Those cities might actually succeed in forming their own. So, yeah,
I'd be for that.
It could have worked. Maybe. So those are some of the assessments overall from people in history. Like we said, those go on to kind of shape Marx's and Engels' and Lenin's view on what communism should look like. Mm-hmm. You know, how it should progress from capitalism, how it should take power, what the revolution would end up being.
Yeah. What are our views that are going to shape communism?
What are our views? Do we want to just do a rating system or a pros and cons or?
Pros and cons.
Yeah. Hit me with them.
All right. Pros. I mean, I like the cut or the jib, basically. Like, like I said, I like how horizontal it is. I like the focus on like local control, the fucking elections being like pretty open. I mean, they should have let women vote. That sucks.
Yeah.
But the revocable thing and the workman's wages thing, like that shit's good. Like, I feel like, again, like that's a super easy sell to most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, overall I liked it. I think the bank thing was really fucking stupid. Just like you already broke the biggest law, which is treason, you know, and for a penny and for a pound, literally steal the money.
Yup. Yeah.
That seemed dumb.
They're going to be easy on you. Well, they didn't take the bank.
So, yeah, that was weird. Because I feel like with that, you could have negotiated or something or like bought some cool shit. I don't know. There could have been something with that.
Well, yeah, you could have funded everything you wanted to do, offered higher pay to make sure that people show up for the National Guard.
Oh, yeah, you could have paid your army and like, yeah, gotten more people in your army. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like I mentioned earlier, the whole taking over Versailles thing would have been cool. I don't know if they could have pulled it off, but I would have been into it.
I think it would have been a better strategy than what they went with. I mean, you've got to take the seat of power. And that was, I think, something that the Bolsheviks understood, you know, versus, you know, in their situation versus what they tried here. They kind of learned from that, you know?
Yeah. Usually I have a lot of squeamish qualms about like killing and stuff, but like, I don't really care about it. This one, I'm okay with it. I don't know. They didn't kill that many people, especially in comparison to how many of them got killed. So like, I'm not that mad about it.
I feel like it was, so part of the hostage thing was also initially that they were going to trade a bunch of the hostages for Blanqui, for the leader of that most radical group, because he was in prison like the whole time.
Oh.
And the government kept refusing them.
Yeah, they were trying to be cool and trade them. I feel like that was dumb of the government not to, but whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, the government was probably smart for doing that because that guy was a good leader, inspiring revolutionary. Yeah, Marx famously referred to him as the leader that the commune, you know, missed. But the tactic of executing hostages, I feel like is. I'm not going to judge them for trying it first. For once they tried it, like seeing maybe these guys will back off. But once it was clear that they dug in and just, okay, fine, we'll execute more of your dudes. I don't really see the point, unless these hostages are for real going to do you any damage, in executing them. But I mean, like, it's like you said, it's fine. I'm not too mad, but.
Yeah, like once they're no longer useful as a bargaining chip, just like, whatever. Like, make sure they don't have guns and put them away somewhere.
Right, or just kick them out. Just be like, go join them,
go
I guess.
away.
Whatever. Who cares?
That's a good point, yeah, because the whole point of hostages is bargaining, basically.
Yeah, so, I don't know. It's just pattern recognition, I guess. This isn't doing anything. Why? I mean, you kill them in revenge, I guess, but.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
mean.
shitty.
So
I love how many of these things are like, what would I do if I had hostages? As if I would ever have hostages.
just sitting there. They better negotiate or else you guys are getting it. Yeah. You would not do well in that position.
I would not.
Weenie.
There's Snowpiercer
We're weenies,
Christine
so,
and there's
like,
Weenie Christine, and
Yeah.
the two are always fighting. There are two wolves inside of me.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with your pro and con assessment mostly. What is it? So I agree. We talked about the democratization in terms of the open voting. I agree. It should have been open to anyone, regardless of the gender. They messed up with the bank situation. I think that the horizontal thing, the lack of organization, hurt them more than it helped them.
Yeah.
And I think that that may be one of the positive lessons that Lenin and the Bolsheviks learned from that was we got to have a disciplined party force. But then again, when you end up with kind of a secretive government that's a little more separate from the people, you know, that also led to its problems. So it was more successful in getting the revolution done. But then, I mean, you know, we spent a lot of time talking about how the problems that arose from that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like almost like you have to have a prenup, like a commitment to like, okay, we're going to do some shit for a while and be really centralized and a little bit mean. But I fucking promise that when we're done, we'll stop and we'll transition to being more local.
And that is what Lenin laid forth, though, in The State and Revolution is
It is, yeah.
a period of repression until it's over, and then...
But like, that's so tricky though. Cause like, you're always going to be asking like, when is it over? You know?
And there's different forms of doing that, like in Maoism, where you have the mass line that kind of ties you to the people and says, oh, we're going to be doing what the people say and make sure that we're delivering that to them. I mean, you still end up with kind of some downsides in terms of like the Cultural Revolution. You still end up with kind of mass killings and things like that. And not to mention just disasters like the Great Leap Forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So this shit's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I lean towards more that localized thing just because I have those like anarchist leanings. So but I understand it. It comes with some set of challenges, I guess.
Yeah. And we got to understand that when we're doing this sort of self-criticism like this, it's not really it's criticizing these movements, I guess, but self-criticizing the movement overall, that we are not trying to be naysayers. Like when we put up, oh, look, this is what we did wrong. You got to understand that on the other side of it are all the massive crimes of capitalism that are happening every day.
I'd way rather have this kind of shit, like these kinds of debates. That's fine.
Because you know what? At the end of the day on that, at least we fucked up. Like at least we had the power to mess up. We were in the driver's seat and we hit something, you know, but in the other one, it's the capitalist masters driving our bus off the cliff and killing us all. Like,
yeah, for sure. These are kind of good problems to have in a way.
Yeah. And you know, because the capitalists, like they kind of consider these things like, oh, if we do too much of this, you know, barbaric killing of so many people, like they might rise up, but they don't like, you know, they don't consider it from a human perspective. They're considering it from a profit perspective and power.
Yeah. I think what frustrates me about the left, and we've talked about this a lot, is that there is so much infighting, and I think a lot of it does come from good intentions of like, when this pops off, I want it to go perfectly.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think that's realistic. Like, this is just not how the fucking world works. Like, I keep going back to what Mark said last week in our reading was last week, like he was alive.
I said it last week.
Hey guys. I don't know why I go to that Muppet voice all the time now, but I do. I hope it's okay.
It's a good one.
Thanks. But anyway, I keep going back to that reading where he was just like, hey, whenever it pops off, like you should be on board.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if it's an anarchist, doesn't matter if it's a Leninist, does not matter. Just like fucking go.
Join in. Try to help.
Let's go, lesbians, go.
Yeah. Join in, try to help, try to make it better. If we mess up, we mess up and we'll try to fix it.
Yeah. It's like, let's fucking kill the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And then we can deal with everything else.
Elephants are great, but yeah, let's kill the capitalists.
Well, the elephant being capitalism.
And no, I totally agree. I think we're saying the same thing here is we got to do that first. You know, we got to put ourselves in control, and then we can try not to make mistakes and try to fix the mistakes we make.
Yeah. We can only try.
So,
I mean, honestly, yeah. If we were even, it's funny to be having these discussions because it's like, we're not even close to like any of this.
yeah.
So Because it's just like, oh, we're just being slowly crushed by capitalism every day. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And here in our classic coming down,
Yeah,
we start
right?
talking about how, well, we're not even anywhere near this.
Yeah.
Which is true,
Sorry,
but-
y'all.
But I mean, these guys, they went from absolute monarchy of get your head chopped off for talking shit about the Eucharist to taking control in the streets. I mean, so we have dark days now, but perhaps a dawn is in the future.
I fucking hope so.
Hopefully. It's like Tsarist Russia, a terrible,
Yeah.
horrible, oppressive, tyrannical place. And eventually they, are taking to the streets with red banners held high.
Yeah.
So there's hope.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope there's hope.
All right, we went our pros cons. I mean, I think we're probably going to come down with, I'm going to give it a 5-star rating.
Yeah, I think I am too. That was pretty sweet.
Everybody fucks up, so they do make some mistakes, yeah, but like they fucking tried. I think that's going to be my new take on things, is just like, I'd rather be the one making the mistakes and get that opportunity than never having had the chance. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, you're 5 stars too?
Oh, yeah, I think I'm also 5 stars. Like,
Nice.
It was really fucking cool.
Well, what do we want to dock it a half star or a full star? Because they didn't let women vote or anything.
The women thing is a tripping point for me. What year was it again? 17?
1871.
Oh, it was 18. So that was 17 for some reason. Yeah, you should have gotten your shit together by then.
Are you docking them a half or a full star?
I'll do half. Because I still really like the cut of their jib.
Yeah, they were still pretty cool.
Should it be a full?
Nah, they did pretty good. And it's not like they were just like, women, get out of here completely. Like, women were still doing things.
Yeah.
And they had, it is still far back in history. I mean, they had their historical times to deal with bullshit like that. So they should have fixed that. Dock them a half star just to be critics. But they still did a good job.
They did. That was really neat.
All right.
Now I want to listen to Les Mis.
Take to the barricades.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, all right. So now that we reached the end of that, let's talk about what are we going to be discussing next week. I hear you have a project for me.
I do. So this is a topic I've had on our list for a long time, but I wasn't sure how to tackle it, and I'm starting to get there. So hopefully I have it together by next week when we record. But I want to talk about fatness, basically, and capitalism.
Okay.
And so, like, I am a fat person. I'm what's called a small fat, which means like I can still find clothes in most stores,
Yeah.
but people larger than me have it much harder, obviously.
So that's like you said, clothes in most stores versus like a big and tall section sort of thing.
No, versus like some people, like they have to order only online and stuff. Like they just don't carry them in stores and shit.
That
And like,
makes sense.
yeah, basically the larger you are, like the more issues you're going to have with accessibility and with bias and discrimination, harassment, and like all these horrible things. And that's what I want to talk about next week is basically like the systemic oppression of fat people, how that works in terms of capitalism today, and how it kind of shows up in left movements as well.
Okay, interesting. The only thing I know about that is kind of like the leftist like attack of fat cats.
Yeah, this is kind of where that started. Is I started noticing that more and more. Like I'd see illustrations and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, this hits me the wrong way.
Right. Or like, oh, these, fat bastard capitalist robber barons or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know about it in leftist circles. But there's probably a lot more that you can teach me about that.
There's some, that section is a little bit smaller right now. I'm going to do a little more research to see if I can find some more, but I know I feel like fatness is one of our like last very acceptable forms of bias.
Yeah.
Like whenever it's really uncomfortable as a fat person to tell people like, yeah, I'm okay with being fat and like, I'm not planning on losing weight. Like they will freak the fuck out.
Well, yeah, everyone likes to be an amateur nutritionist at that point.
Exactly. Everyone's like,
fitness
well, have
guru.
you tried this? I'm like, I don't want to hear it.
No, dude, what? Restricting calories? Oh, what?
No one's ever told me this before.
Yeah.
I've only been fat my entire life. So yeah. So we'll talk about like just kind of the basics, like if you've never been fat or are close to someone who's being fat, there's a lot of this you might not know, just kind of how it affects people. And yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, and we'll be talking, like you said, about the leftist spaces part, as well as how it ties into capitalism and its domination of people.
For sure. Like, it is closely tied. It's crazy.
Awesome. All right. I think, what should listeners do in the meantime?
In the meantime, they should follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at Teach Communism, where I recently got a great compliment. Someone was like, I love how much Teach Me Communism knows about Pokemon. That is like the world's best compliment for me. Thank you. It needs to be acknowledged more. I'm admittedly bad at the later gens, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah, me too, dude. I don't know any of that.
Instagram. We're on Instagram at Teach Me Communism. You can send us an email. That's teachmecommunism@gmail.com. That's where you should go if you want to send us a suggestion for a future episode. We have a running doc, and I will add basically all suggestions from emails and social media on there and like highlighted a different color so we can kind of see what's in demand. That's definitely what spurred like our Mao episode. We're like, man, a lot of people are asking about this guy. So yeah.
Yeah. So we are influenced by that.
For sure. Very gullible, very susceptible. What else? You can also ask us questions there for future Q&A episode. We haven't done one of those in a while, so those are always fun. You should leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to help people find the show. Rate and review. It's great. Makes me happy. I love it and need it to survive.
You'll boost Christine's self-esteem.
I need it.
So that's good.
We're on YouTube if that's your preferred method of podcast listening. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/teachmecommunism. That's where for $5 a month, very cheap, you get access to all of our notes. So most weeks most weeks we both have notes. This week it's just Grady's. But yeah, you get notes. Those often come with like sources and links. Mine are just kind of funny, but yeah.
Tons of links in this note. So
nice. Yeah. So it's cool because you not only get this week's, but you'll get the whole backlog. And I've mentioned this before, but I frequently use that to like when I forget an answer to a question, I can just look it up.
There you go.
It's like a little communist encyclopedia.
Yeah. Build your collection of communist knowledge.
Hell yeah. Oh, hey, I think that's all the internet I have.
Wonderful. Thank you for being a great student today.
Thank you for teaching me. This was fun.
Awesome. I look forward to your presentation next class.
Okay.
All right, listeners, you guys can catch us next week on another episode of Teach Me Communism, where the class struggle is always in session.
Bye, y'all.
Goodbye.